everyone, my name is Michelle King. I'm a band director at Beckville ISD, teach 6th through 12th grade. I wanted to talk to you about something that a lot of my beginners kind of struggle with, and sometimes even my 7th graders get a little bit confused about one of these, but it's the accidentals, your flat, your sharp, and your natural sign. I'm just going to kind of talk through each of them and then tell you what each one means and what you should do when you see each one of those in front of a note. And then I'm going to relate it to our key signatures and how you follow key signatures, your roadmap, to play all the right notes in the music. So we're going to start by just talking about each of the accidentals. So the first one that we're going to talk about is the sharp sign. Sharp sign, it's what everybody says, oh, that looks like a hashtag. It does look like a hashtag, okay? This is your sharp sign. Okay, if you see a sharp sign in front of a note, then you should raise that note a half step. So that means you're going to go up in sound, in pitch, by a half step. Okay, the next one that we're going to talk about is going to be the flat sign. So the flat sign looks like a B, okay? And if you see a flat sign in front of a note, then you're going to lower the note by a half step. So that note going from the natural to the flat note is going to sound lower than the original note, okay? And then the one that confuses my kids probably the most out of the three is the natural sign. A lot of times they get the natural sign and the sharp sign confused, and so they see a natural and then they want to play a sharp note instead, and I have to go, oh no, that's just telling you it's just the regular form of the note. So this is your natural sign. It kind of looks like a chair. You know, my students say, oh, look, it's the chair. Or you can, it's an L and a 7 connected with a box in the middle. You know, there's a lot of ways you can think about that. If you see a natural sign in front of a note, it means you're just going to play the regular form of that note, okay? Usually you're going to see it in a measure after another note has been altered by a flat or a sharp. But sometimes you can see it in a later measure, and it'll have parentheses like this a lot of the time. That's a courtesy accidental. That's reminding you, hey, we're still natural, even though you were sharp or flat a few measures before that. And you can actually see that courtesy thing around the sharps and the flats too. But I think my students get most confused when they see this, the natural sign in parentheses, because they think it means something more than what it actually means. They're trying to make it a bigger deal than what it actually is. So let's talk about how these relate to your key signatures, okay? All right, so in key signatures, you are getting a roadmap to your music to find out what notes you're supposed to play throughout the entire song. And they do this by writing the key signature at the very beginning of the song after you see your treble clef or your bass clef, okay? And so what you'll see is an order of flats or sharps at the very front, and you know, they look kind of like, let me draw the staff to help you out here. They look kind of like this. So if you have one flat, it'll be there. If you have two flats, they move it up, okay? And so that's what your key signature looks like. It's this area that has flats, or it could have sharps in it, okay? Now there's a specific order to these flats or sharps that we all have to follow, okay? Music is very easy in this, is that it's always going to be the same, okay? And we're going to start with the order of the flats. So the order of the flats spells the word bead, and then it takes a math term, and it does greatest common factor, GCF, okay? So this is your order of the flats that way. And this is always going to be the order that the flats come up in your key signature. So if you have one flat in your key signature, it's always going to be a B flat. They're never going to put one flat and expect you to play A flat, okay? It's always going to be B flat first. If you have two flats, it's always going to be B flat and then E flat also. If you have three, B flat, E flat, A flat, and so forth, okay? You're never going to have a G flat in your key signature without having a D, an A, an E, and a B before that, okay? The order of the sharps is super easy because it's just the opposite direction of the order of the flats, okay? So if you're reading it this way, that's going to be your order of sharps. And then there's also a fun little saying for your order of sharps. fat cats go down alleys eating birds. Okay, I like to have my kids sometimes make up funny sayings for that. I like to do that. But the one that I use most often, fat cats go down alleys eating birds. And it's the same as the order of the flats, except we're going to start with the F. If you have one sharp, it's going to be F sharp. If you have two sharps, it's going to be F sharp and C sharp. Three sharps, it will be F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, and so forth. You're not going to have an A sharp unless you have a D sharp, a G sharp, a C sharp, and an F sharp before that in your key signature, okay? So anytime that you have that, anytime that you have a key signature, you're going to think about your order of flats or your order of sharps to figure out what notes are going to be flat or sharp in the key signature. So let's do a little test and see if you guys can figure this out on your own, okay? We're going to do a treble clef and a bass clef so that we can hit everybody. So let's start first with the treble clef. I'm going to give you a little staff here. D line. Okay, so let's do flats, okay? So I'm going to give you a few flats, and then I'm going to ask you what flats are in this key signature, okay? I'll give you a couple seconds to think it through, thinking about your order of flats, your bead greatest common factor, okay? And so the flats that we have in this key signature right here are B flat, E flat, and A flat. So anytime you see a B in this key signature, you're going to play it flat. Anytime you see an E, you play it flat. Anytime you see an A, you play it flat. Anytime, okay? Let me teach you another trick on this to figure it out. If you can't remember what the saying is, you can look at the line that the flat is actually written on. So this line right here, that's the line that you would see a B on, and that flat sign is also on that line, so that it stands for a B flat. This right here, this space, that's an E space. The flat is on the E space, so you can expect to see you can expect to see E's here in flat, okay? And then also this one right here is on the A space. You're going to have an A flat, okay? Now this does count for every A throughout your staff. So we have an E down here, and we have an E here, and then maybe we have an E way down here, and then we have an E way up here, okay? Every single one of those E's is going to be flat in this key signature. Every single A on every single octave is going to be flat, okay? It counts for all octaves when we're talking key signature. Accidentals do not count for all octaves, okay? So it's only going to count for the octave that it's written, and so if it has another note in like that same note, but it's a higher note or a lower note, that one is going to be natural, okay? Unless the composer indicates that also. So let's talk bass clef now. Let's do an example in bass clef. Tuba players and trombone baritone players. Okay, so there's our bass clef. Got our dots surrounding the F line. I'm going to draw a key signature, and then I'll give you a couple seconds to try to figure it out. Let's do this one in sharp since we did the other one in flats. Okay, so we have 5 sharps here. We're going to think about our order of sharps. Fat cats go down alleys eating birds, thinking about that. Or you can use our other trick, okay? And so the sharps that we have in this key signature, we have F sharp, C's on the F line right here. We have C sharp right here on the C space. We have G sharp. On the G space, we have D sharp on the D line. And then we have A sharp on the A space there, okay? And that's using, I showed you how it lined up on the lines and spaces, but I also, this is fat cats go down alleys, and then eating birds is the other two, okay? And remember, these are all octaves. Every single time you see that note, regardless of octave, that note is going to be sharp, okay? All right. So what I tell my students whenever they're first getting a piece of music is I want them to go and mark the very first one of each of those, just to give us a little reminder. But I'm encouraging you not to mark every single one, because we want to teach ourselves to be able to remember the key signature and apply it as we play our music. So while I'm okay with marking the very first one, just to give us a reminder when we first start the music, I think it's super important that we train ourselves to read the key signature without marking every single note. I also think it's super important to just train yourself to touch every single time you start a new piece of music. Touch the key signature and remind yourself, this is what key I'm going to play in. Some of my students will write the actual key notes. They'll write B flat, E flat, A flat, or whatever to help them remember when they first look at the music. So help yourself out, but try not to give yourself a crutch to where you're using that to, instead of learning how to read the key signature, just reading the notes, okay? Anyways, happy practicing. I hope that you're playing your instrument every single day, and I'm going to encourage you to start really paying attention to those key signatures and really paying attention to those accidentals and figuring out which accidental is which and using it in the right way. I hope that you guys are enjoying your time off. I hope that you're still working hard. God bless.